Appendix 4. Japan in China. What exactly Japan did in China? To answer this question, we first need to thoroughly dissect Chiang Kai-shek. Then we need to understand what Japan did not do first, before homing in on what Japan did that were either harmful or beneficial to China. Chiang Kai-shek was a Japanese military officer whose commission had never been discharged. His second adult son was even born of a Japanese mother. After his final downfall in China, before he was chased out to Taiwan, his wife, Meilin, asked him to go to Europe instead of Taiwan. Chiang replied, "Any other place I would rather go beside Taiwan. It's Japan." Even in Taiwan, the successor of the Chiang dynasty, designated by Chiang's son Chiang Jing-guo, was a person who openly professed that he was Japanese at heart. We know Chiang was a die-hard anti-communist, and after the Xi'an mutiny, Chiang expanded his hatred to the general Chinese population. So unbelievable as it may be, as a Chinese leader, Chiang's hatred of his own Chinese people was only matched by his love for China's supposed enemy, Japan, and his subservient attitude toward America. And as to Chiang's relationship with America, it's a criminal pact between two misfits. Chiang was ready to sell out to China in any way if the price was right, while America tried to fool all the people all the time. America's unquenchable appetite to colonize Asia compelled Americans to buy favor from someone who consorted with America's deadly enemy, Japan. Also, there was this odd couple in Chiang and wife, Meilin, in their triangular Sino-American love-hate affair. Chiang cheated America in military collaboration. Song cheated Chiang by having an affair with an American Republican presidential candidate. Americans loved Song for being anti-Asian, but detested Chiang for underhanded dealing with Japan. So this relation of zero loyalty from Chiang's side and negative trust from American side, mixed in by the relation of Chiang's hatred for China and love for Japan, result in many forgeries and fabrications with a final loss end for all three countries involved. The reason for this disastrous ending was because Chiang, in his effort to satisfy his vengefulness, sacrificed the interests and harmed the images of both his partners in crime, along with record-breaking number of dead Asians, both in China and Japan. This perfect storm of confused relations opened a floodgate of propaganda and distortion, and the victim is history. Today, all three nations' leaders are trying to enforce censorship on truth. America especially sealed most lies with 2 A-bombs, and occasionally threatening with both overt and covert military, monetary, and political actions. With the current accelerated arms race ongoing in Asia, no one wanted to look at its cause, which is the distorted history. We, thus, are heading straight into World War III. Our history revision effort here is aimed at preventing World War III by diverting the war of bullets to war of words. So obviously we need to start from a peace perspective, and we need to use reverse logic, proceeding from effect to causes, to break through a lot of ironclad lies. For starters, you win the war, you are a more savage than the other guy. And being the victor, you must have lied more, etc. If you don't like it, go wait for World War III. Before discussing what Japan did in China, let's first get what Japan did not do out of the way. Let's start with the death knot of Sino-Japan relation, the Nanking Massacre. As described in Appendix 1, Nanking Massacre by Chiang Kai-shek. Nanking Massacre was mainly a vengeance by Chiang Kai-shek for the humiliation he suffered 1 anniversary ago at the Xi'an Mutiny. Business-wise, he fabricated the Nanking Massacre photo album for Hollywood to make an award-winning documentary to smear Japan ahead of the real war. The upshot here is Japan didn't do it. Most killings were by Chinese troops doing them unto themselves during the frantic retreat, and by secret contract killing by Japanese special execution squads, both caused by orders from Chiang Kai-shek. If there is any more doubters out there, let me alert them that we have not yet seen the full testimony of Nanking's defense commanding General Tang, even though most of you have already been lied to by Chang that General Tang was shot for desertion. Well, in actuality, General Tang was rescued by the communists and lived to an old age as a high official. The second crime of Japan's invading China, as charted by Prime Minister Tanaka in his plan, the Tanaka Memorial, was also something that didn't happen. The Tanaka Memorial was a forgery, probably of Russian origin, and Japanese troops were sent to China and everywhere else in Asia to either chase the Western colonists out of Asia or to prevent Western arms from shipping in. The Tanaka Memorial was a masterpiece of propaganda for dividing and conquering Asia by the West colonists. It did cause a lot of mutual killings between Japan and China, but the blood debts should be owed by the West. Third, and the greatest tragic event that Japan did not do was the Yellow River flood of 1938. But prior and during World War II, Chinese were told that Japan did it, until Mao came along and exposed the lie only after the damage was done. Later, Chiang Kai-shek's men were finally forced to confess that this lie was to make Chinese people hate Japanese. Yes, although Japan didn't do much, but America and its Chinese puppet sure have done a lot to make sure Chinese people hate Japanese. Japan still maintained the Sino-Japan War was just a China incident. China called it resisting Japan War. But regardless of how many senseless lives have been wasted, it should be called a war to resist Asia and aid the West. Let's proceed to see what Japan did in China, starting with some comparison of history between Japan and China. Around 1850s, China had a bad experience in her encounters with the West. An indigenous Christian crusade sandwiched in by two opium wars almost ended China her 5,000 years run as the head of the household of the world. The ruling Qing dynasty gallantly rejected Westernization with her last breath, but the pro-Western warlords were eager to Westernize by selling China out to the West. Two suicidal attempts to resist the West by indigenous force were the Boxer rebels and the Peace and Liberation Army of Mao Zedong. The Boxers were only able to keep China from being cut up by the West, and Mao's force escaped extermination in an arduous long march by finding sanctuary in the Japan-occupied territory. Then Mao was able to buy some time when a mutiny in the traitor government of Chiang Kai-shek occurred in the city of Xi'an. Finally, it was the culture of Asian unification and the tradition of peace and liberation and some upgrading of weapons by the surrounding Japanese that propelled Mao to liberate China, North Korea, and Vietnam. And the little white ping-pong ball knocked down America's nuke fence around China and started China off on a path back to her past greatness. But all of the above-mentioned events would be futile if not for Mao's mission impossible of pulling China out of the century-old opium holocaust. History's neglect on this topic is why history itself is now being put on trial for leading future generations astray, directly into World War III. In Japan, Emperor Meiji went for the best of both worlds. Eastern culture and Western militarism. However, Western militarism accompanied by industrialization forced Asian culture and tradition to take back seats. Japan retreated into the western jungle of strong in the weak. Still, Japan used her newly gained military might to preserve China into the Manchukuo, the Mongolian government, and the Nanking government of Wang Jingwei. This prepared the preconditions for Mao to eventually reunify the separated governments into one China, while losing much territory that Japan was unable to seize back from the Russians. And during the war, Japan blockaded American arms shipments from entering China into the hands of the pro-West puppet government of Chiang Kai-shek. And after the war, as if it's hard to understand by Westerners and Chinese alike, Japan naturally passed the baton of Asian liberation to Mao in the form of military technologies, especially in areas of artillery and flying. A better equipped Mao by the Japanese shocked Chiang to seek shelter in Taiwan, as well as ended America's winning streak of wars since its founding in Vietnam. At this point of our history telling, it should be asked why Japan could not accomplish what Mao did. Mao was smeared even worse by Chiang as the commie bandit. Then Japan was by America and the puppet governments as invaders. Also, Japan was far more superior than Mao in weaponry, where Japan slipped up big time in unifying in Asia with her mishandling of the opium holocaust in China. Japan's allowing opium trafficking in Asian mainland, but not at home, differentiated Japan from Mao and weakened Japan's ability to unify with China and Asia. Also, Japan did not heed the lesson of the Manchu monarch family, who used culture to conquer and rule China. Japan made Asian culture to take a backseat to Western militarism. This left Japan with the only option of passing the baton of Asian liberation to Mao after losing to America due to population depletion in Japan's small homeland islands. Now here again we see Mao was a born winner. He took Japan's population depletion as a measure of the extreme savagery of Americans that he asked the Chinese moms to give birth faster than Americans could kill. Although it's easy now for us to say this was no need, therefore it's a wrong policy by a tyrant. People today in China are still crying about the tremendous suffering during the Cultural Revolution, where Mao insisted that the Americans were coming down with their nuke on China. Yeah, the hindsight is very accurate, but the most accurate of it all is Mao won. In case some Americans still find it hard to part with their view that China and Japan are two entirely different species of Asians, in that they could not unite to repel the West. Let me finish the comparison with how they have been treated by the West. The Manchus of China's Qing dynasty fought against opium but failed because of refusing to accept Westernization. Japan, on the other hand, sacrificed her conscience for financial gain through opium trafficking in China. Unlike the Manchus, Japan tripped herself up by not observing the moral aspect of Asian culture. but Mao Zedong succeeded and was able to liberate China along with North Korea and Vietnam, while many people even accuse Mao of anti-Confucius. Why? Actually, Mao had a higher morality standard than all other moralists. This standard was important to do the mission impossible of beating back the immoral Western barbarians. This morality is, we Chinese would rather starve to death than be pissed off to death. That's how he used the exhaustive suffering and the spiritually terroristic cultural revolution to scare America from nuking China. Also won the Korean War with much inferior weapons, endured the famine during the Great Leap Forward and the Taiwan Strait War, in which new cannons might have been used by America, and won the Vietnam War. And now, how about the Christians in both China and Japan? The apocalyptic total war of China's internal genocidal Christian crusade of Taiping Rebellion also had a parallel in Japan's Shimabara Rebellion, in which Japan exterminated her Christian population. Interestingly, the number of Christians wiped out in Shimabara Rebellion around Nagasaki was almost identical to the 39,000 who died from the Nagasaki atomic bomb, and it was done by an all-Christian bombing crew. However, what does Japan think of China? The following two Japanese who have a lot to do with China can give us an Asian perspective. Asianism advocator Ishihara Yoshida. Asianism is a unity of three countries of East Asia, China, Japan, and Korea, and together they should resist the invasion of Western white power. Ishihara not only believed in Asianism, but also believed in Buddhism. He thought the contestants in the final war could be only the United States and the East Asian allies, centered around the Japanese emperor. The war will determine whether the Asian rule of culture or the Western bullying way can dominate the world. The main point of Ishihara's overall strategy was that in East Asia, the historical leader, China, was no longer able to lead the yellow race in East Asia to defeat the white race. Therefore, Japan's historical mission now is to shoulder this responsibility in East Asia by becoming the leader of East Asia and lead East Asia countries in integrating its resources and finally making a decisive battle against the representatives of the West, the United States. Ishihara even tried to persuade the Japanese to give up Japanese citizenship and join the five-race United Manchukuo. This is pretty much the core of Japan's Great East Asia strategy. Then, The second Japanese we will present here is the Japanese Class A war criminal Kenji Doihara. Doihara worked hard in Beijing to study Chinese culture. Doihara was Japan's China old hand. He has read the Chinese classical novel Three Kingdoms and the Outlaws of the Marsh, and will speak a variety of dialects. Therefore, he was familiar with Chinese national characteristics. Thus, he was a man of integrity and righteousness. Doihara was also known by people as a man of his words, and always keep his commitment. When he was the mayor of Shenyang, China, his expenses in running the city were reimbursed out of his own pockets, and he was oblivious to repay the money from his salary month to month. As a result, Doihara could only live with his whole family for a long time in a small house with only 2 rooms. In addition, when Doihara interacted with people, their impression of him was usually affable, with the special rusticity of the native folks. Among many Chinese politicians with whom he came into contact, there was a saying that Doihara does not lie. Doihara and Lu Yuanshan, a powerful warlord, were classmates at the Luda University. When Doihara returned to China, he settled amidst the warlords, putting together the so-called Great Northern League against Chiang Kai-shek and Zhang Xueliang, who were on the side of America. Doihara put forward a plan to establish a Manchuria-Mongolia Republic. Regarding the head of the new nation, he proposed the former Qing Xuandong Emperor Pu Yi. In October 1935, Doihara pushed for a North China autonomous movement. However, the first on the list of war criminals submitted by the Chinese government to the International Military Tribunal for the Far East after the war was Doihara. How could such a self-sacrificing person become a war criminal? You see, if he didn't die, Chiang Kai-shek's dirty laundry will not be kept secret. It is said that during the entire trial, the only remark made by Doihara was "no appeal." Now, the secrets are safe. Chinese military fear Doihara like lambs fear tigers. It is said that Chiang Kai-shek was very disgusted with Doihara, calling him a bandit, the same way he called Mao. And he was put at the top on the list of war criminals, being personally ordered by Chiang Kai-shek. Doihara is the father of so-called Han traders. Finally, the Jews of the world are now known for being absent in big events of the world. Here they were in the lives and deaths of Asia. A 1920s quote from Einstein on page 25 of the book Theoretical Modern History 3 by Seiji Fujii, owner of the APA hotel chain in Japan. Albert Einstein said, "The way to being a world-leading power is not military force or money. A nation must have a longer history than all other countries and the world's oldest, most precious pedigree." World culture began in Asia and will return to Asia. Japan must be in the peak of Asia. We are thankful to God for creating the country of Japan for the human race, unquote. Any Chinese would swear that Einstein was talking about China. Well, China is not too far off, and another even more famous, also much larger scale Jew, Karl Marx, could very well have the same opinion about China. Well, the smart Jews have the ability to think something but do something else, something entirely different, to kind of protecting their God-chosen status. Guess that's how China got the opium and Japan got the A-bombs. Appendix 5. What is this Middle Kingdom? 7,000 years ago, a species in the animal kingdom found itself uniquely different from the rest of the animals. Members of the species feel emotion and exhibit righteousness. Merits of emotion and righteousness thus replace power of muscle as a measure of standing in the species. They called themselves humans, and they formed a meritocratic society to practice harmony and benevolence among fellow humans. Through cultivating agriculture and raising livestock, humans start to have time to think, and they thought up a civilization. Unfortunately, the most original emotion, the fear of the unknown, compel humans to find security in equally mysterious entities, namely gods and other fictitious higher authorities. Only until around 4,500 years ago, humans were able to share their reliance on gods and other superstitions. They found out that the most meritorious among them could lead them into the unknown future, protect them from natural and other harms, and most of all, serve as their role models in being the most perfect human being possible. With the new gained self-confidence, humans started to find worthiness in their very existence. Their hopes and aspirations shift to the future, especially when they found that worthiness was cumulative throughout generations. They want their own experiences to become lessons for the future generations. They started to record noteworthy events down as history. The Middle Kingdom is the story being told by this history. The story began with the first leader, the Yellow Emperor. Yellow Emperor defeated a rival leaders group and unified the kingdom. He was credited with inventing the compass, which helped him to outmaneuver his rival during a battle on the heavy fog. But his most important claim to merit was being the first medical doctor on record. The Yellow Emperor's medicine book has guided his people to maintain health and overcome the plagues throughout the ages. It laid a foundation for the herbal medicine and natural cure. The Yellow Emperor was succeeded by a hydraulic engineer named Dai Yu. Dai Yu tamed the Yellow River and the Yangtze River. This meritorious leader set a precedent for meritocracy. In future generations, merit and genes carried equal weights in selecting leaders, requiring the top leaders to take up many wives to further ensure the genetic option. And once a while, peace and revolution during a time of crisis was the last resort to upkeep the merit in leadership's quality. In ensuing years, dynasty came and went, and it was during the Qing dynasty around 2,500 years ago, the Emperor Qin Shi Huang unified other dynasties along with their cultures and traditions. The unification of the written characters henceforth made the people one people under the concept of a central national family, or 中国国家. Ill translated as China, based on how these people made the best porcelain or fine china in the world. And in the Song dynasty, around 1,000 years ago, the cultural development reached its pinnacle. The people harmonized with Mother Nature to such an extent that they considered themselves to have transcended all things earthly, such as riches, fame, and power. Even as Song Emperor tried to give up his emperorship, opting to become a painter of birds. Many minor monarchies and powerful families simply pledged allegiance to the central Song dynasty. One such large merchant family actually provided sanctuary to the emperor in his attempt to escape capture by tribes from the north. Prior to Song dynasty, China expanded through cultural unification by conquest. But during and after Song dynasty, China was actually expanded by being conquered. How so? Nevertheless, China always reconquered the new addition to the family with China's culture. As nobody was still that much interested in becoming the all-powerful emperor, why not inject some fresh blood from abroad? But the final analysis points to the logical conclusion. That was, culture has superseded sovereignty as of the highest priority in a nation. Minority ethnics of less than 1% of majority Han ethnic in China have ruled China in more than half of the time in the last 3 dynasties, until the current ethnic blind Communist Party took power in 1949. The most representative of present-day China's culture is the voluntaristic self-sacrificing communism. In fact, under the leadership of Mao Zedong, China was only recently resuscitated back from death caused by the storm of barbarism from the West. Mao required such voluntaristic spirits from his communists that they must be willing to sacrifice themselves to be starved to death in order the Chinese people will never again be humiliated. What China has introduced to the world in the Yuan and the Qing dynasty was this concept of minority rule, and it appeared to be the single most effective method of achieving ethnic harmony. This methodology of minority rule has improved itself since the Mongolia's Yuan dynasty to the latest Manchurian Qing dynasty to be the least bloodshed among China's expansion through unification. At the same time, it allowed for the ruling minority ethnic along with other minority ethnic within China who normally were under pressure to assimilate to preserve their own ethnic purity and reclusive tranquility, while at the same time having full access to the majority ethnic marketplace and military protection. Another win for culture over all else, particularly military power and national wealth, occurred in the 15th century. Ming Dynasty. China demolished her own world's largest armada, along with the most valuable intellectual properties for world domination, simply for the purpose of holding on to her commitment to China's culture of harmony, benevolence, and peace. Let's all keep our fingers crossed and hope that China will surge backward to her past splendor of cultural manifestation in order to lead our turbulent world to a more orderly and powerful and hopeful future. Finally, let's make sure that Westerners understand what we are talking about whenever we claim to be the descendants of the dragon, especially when the dragon in the West is considered an ominous animal. The Christian crusaders who slaughtered the dragons are heroes in the West. Since the East and West both have known dragons, it might just be possible that our ancestors lived in the same period as the dragons, most likely in the form of dinosaurs. However, the Easterners worshipped the dragon and thus inherited the good side of the dragon. However, Westerners are hostile to the dragon and still are so barbaric today.